A seaplane was stranded in the middle of the ocean, waiting for rescue. Suddenly, two unidentified boats appeared on the horizon, speeding towards them. They did not answer the radio. They did not fly a flag, and the pilots quickly realized this was no rescue. This was a hijacking. The morning sun painted the Indian Ocean in silvers and golds. Captain Noah Reyes adjusted his headset. To his right, co-pilot Jaime Malik tapped the altimeter, his grin as wide as the horizon. "Flight 100, Jaime said. "You know what that means? That you're bringing cake for the ground crew?" Noah replied dryly. "It means," Jaime said, "that after we touch down in Djibouti, I'm officially eligible for international captaincy. No more second seat." The two had flown together for over a year. They ferried everything from scientists to delicate equipment across the African coastline. Today's manifest was just 3 cargo crates. Each one was sealed and strapped tight. The contents were marked confidential. High-value satellite components. Lightweight, expensive, rare. The flight started smooth. Calm skies, open sea. And then a red light blinked on the panel. Noah saw it. At the same time, Jaime did. "Jaime? Yeah, I see it," Jaime said, already tapping through the system readouts. "Rudder actuators not responding." The blood drained from his face. "Manual overrides are failing." Noah pressed on the pedals. There was no resistance. Just dead weight. "We've lost rudder control," he said. The calm in his voice was at odds with the rising tension. Jaime leaned forward, scanning instruments. "We can't land like this. Even light crosswinds could spin us out. Flip us." "Then we land here," Noah said flatly. "For now." Jaime blinked. "We're too far." "We don't have a choice," Noah interrupted. There was a beat of silence. Then Jaime took a breath and reached for the mic. "Mayday! Mayday! This is Gulf Seaway 59, he said, his voice tight. "We've lost rudder control and are executing an emergency sea landing." He rattled off their coordinates, fast but clear. "Request immediate assistance." Noah adjusted the flaps. He began the descent. The pontoons hit the water hard. The plane bounced once, twice, and then settled with a groan. Then silence. The seaplane bobbed in place, pitching with each small wave. Jaime was already back on the radio. He sighed. "Coast Guard acknowledged. Closest cutter is en route. Estimated time of arrival is 3 hours." They looked out across the empty, open sea. 3 hours felt like a lifetime. The seaplane drifted gently. Inside the cockpit, Jaime fiddled with the GPS. "At this drift rate," he mumbled, "we'll end up somewhere between absolutely nowhere and very absolutely nowhere." The plane groaned as another wave slammed into its side. Noah winced. "We don't have 3 hours of this. Something gives, and we'll start taking on water." "We could try stabilizing the drift," Jaime offered, "if we can nudge the rudder free." Noah raised an eyebrow. "You think it's stuck, not broken?" "Only one way to find out," Jaime said. He climbed down into the narrow service access hatch, crawling into the tail of the plane. A few minutes later, his voice came through the intercom. "Captain, you're gonna love this. Looks like something wedged itself in the rudder linkage. Not snapped, just jammed." "Define something," Noah replied. "Looks like a piece of that insulation mat we had replaced last week. It must have come loose." Noah felt a surge of hope. "Can you get it out?" "Not from in here. We'd have to kill the power and pop the hatch outside." Noah knew that was too risky. If they lost engine power while floating in these swells, they would be completely helpless. Jaime reappeared in the cockpit, brushing dust off his coveralls. "So, we wait," he said, defeated. Noah didn't answer right away. He looked at the navigation display, then at the waves, then at the silent radio. "We wait," he finally said, "but we plan for—" His voice cut off. He leaned forward, squinting through the front window. Jaime followed his gaze. "Noah, what is it?" "Jaime, 3 o'clock." Jaime turned and shielded his eyes from the sunday. Then he froze. On the distant horizon, 2 boats. Long, narrow silhouettes. They were gliding low and fast over the waves. Their wakes split the ocean like blades. A tense pause hung between them. "Could be the Coast Guard," Jaime said hopefully. "Maybe they were closer than they thought." Noah didn't blink. They said 3 hours. He reached for the binoculars. He focused them on the approaching boats. They were not Coast Guard vessels. He lowered the binoculars, his face grim. "Then who are they?" Jaime asked, his hope fading. Noah's voice was flat. Pirates! The word hung in the air, cold and heavy. Jaime's panic began to rise. How? How the hell did they know we were out here? Noah didn't take his eyes off the horizon. Our Mayday call went out on an open frequency. Anyone listening would have heard it. The weight of that realization settled like a stone in their chests. What had been a technical emergency was now turning into something far, far worse. We need to move, Noah said sharply. Engines on, we're not sitting ducks. Jaime scrambled back to his seat. We can't fly. No, Noah agreed, but we can sail. He pushed the throttles forward. The seaplane responded slowly. It lumbered through the water like a wounded whale. Spray kicked up as they gained a little speed. It was enough to start pulling away from the approaching boats. In the rear of the plane, the precious cargo rattled in its harnesses. Jaime glanced back at it, his eyes wide. They don't know what we're carrying, right? Noah didn't answer. The pirates were closing in. Their engines were a low, angry hum that was getting louder by the second. The seaplane pushed forward awkwardly. Its engines sputtered against the strain. It could barely maintain its direction as waves battered the floats. Noah kept one hand on the throttle, watching the dark shadows of the boats grow behind them. Jaime, he said, his voice sharp, the rear hatch. Use anything heavy. Wedge it shut, now. Jaime scrambled to the back of the plane. He kicked a heavy supply crate into place against the door. He tied it down with a cargo net. He dragged over the crew's heavy toolbox, wedging it against the crate. The plane shuddered. Noah checked the systems. Power and radio were still holding. The rudder was still jammed. Jaime stared at the blocked door. This won't hold them for long, he thought. They're right next to us, he whispered into his headset. Noah said nothing. Then they heard it, a dull bump against the side of the plane. Then another. They're testing us, Noah thought. Another bang, then a dragging, scraping noise. Something was being dragged across the outside of the hull. Jaime gripped the side of his seat. What if they're already trying to climb up? They are, Noah admitted. Then came a loud knock, right on the side door. Jaime jumped. That was the door. They're trying the handle. Don't open it, Noah said, his voice like ice. No matter what, they stay out. Get behind the crates. If they make it in, stay back. Jaime's breath quickened. We're not trained for this, he muttered. We fly cargo. The door handle rattled violently. That door won't hold. Get ready, Noah said. Then the cockpit door, the one leading from the main cabin, burst open. 3 men stood there, soaked and masked. One pointed at Jaime and barked an order in a language they didn't recognize. Back! Noah shouted, raising his hands. We're not armed! One of the pirates shoved Noah back into his seat. Sit. No noise. No trouble. Jaime hesitated for a second. The tallest pirate jammed a finger into his chest. You quiet, or we make you quiet. They were tied up in seconds, hands behind their backs. The ropes burned their wrists. Outside, other pirates were already prying open the cargo crates. Clasps snapped. As one of the men shoved Jaime back against a control panel, his elbow slammed into a large, red, protected switch. A switch labeled Emergency Beacon. A deafening, blaring siren erupted through the plane. It was an ear-splitting wail, designed to be heard for miles. All 5 pirates recoiled, hands flying to their ears. One panicked. Another lost his balance. A crate tipped over, spilling its valuable contents across the floor. "Shut it off!" the leader screamed over the noise. A pirate fumbled with the panel and flipped the switch, silencing the alarm. But the moment of chaos had disrupted everything. Their stealth was gone. The leader barked new orders. "We take them. Now." Jaime and Noah were dragged out of the plane and thrown into one of the long boats. The cold ocean spray lashed their faces. Their wrists were tied. Their bodies were soaked. "We lost the plane," Jaime said, his voice cracking. "They're taking everything." Noah stared blankly at the seaplane, watching the pirates struggle to lift a crate. "What will they do with us?" Jaime asked. Noah didn't answer, and then, from the distance, a sound. The deep blast of a ship's horn, then another. A white cutter with a blue stripe surged over the horizon, closing fast. The Coast Guard. The pirates saw it too. Shouts of panic broke out. A crate fell into the water. One pirate fumbled with the boat's engine, trying to get it started. A voice boomed across the water through a loudspeaker. "This is the Coast Guard. Drop your weapons." Searchlights swept across the chaotic scene. In seconds, they were surrounded. Officers boarded the seaplane and the pirate boats fast, shouting orders. A hand grabbed Noah's shoulder as the ropes were cut. "Are you all right, sir?" an officer asked. "We couldn't stop them," Noah said, his voice hoarse. "You held your ground," the officer replied. "That emergency beacon gave us your exact position. We came straight for it." James, stunned and shivering, started to laugh. "I sat on it by accident," the officer grinned. "Lucky accident, then." Minutes later, the pirates were in cuffs. The cargo was secured. The seaplane drifted, damaged but afloat, under the watchful eye of the cutter. Wrapped in warm blankets on the cutter's deck, Jaime leaned back and looked up at the stars, which were now beginning to appear. "So," he said quietly, "Flight 100. Noah managed a faint smile. "Didn't go exactly to plan." Heem looked at his captain, then at the captured pirates, then at the rescue ship that had saved their lives. "Yeah," he said, "but I'll take it.